Hello, it's Daniel Vincent from Enhanced Primary Care. Thank you very much for joining me today. The video today is going to answer some of the questions that people have asked about becoming a partner in a GP practice. Just in case you don't have time to watch the whole video, I'm going to post a link to a little group I've set up below. If you join that group, if you're interested in becoming a partner or you've recently become a partner, we're going to post the series of webinars that we're creating with our experts in this group, so you'll never miss one of them. So yeah, I'm Daniel Vincent. I became a practice manager partner 5 years ago now, and people ask me, oh, how did you become a partner? And my very simple answer to that is, I asked. So I was approached to apply for the role of practice manager, and I politely declined because I knew that my next step in my journey was to become a partner. When I mentioned this, the person who asked me said, well, why don't you come and have a chat with us? And that's where my partnership journey began. So actually that's what partnership is all about, is being honest, being open. And if you want to become a partner, then have a think about it, come up with a plan, and then present that to your current partners and see what they say. So I had a few questions on the post that I put up. So we've got a question here from Sarah. She wanted to know about the benefits of being a partner. So I would say probably the biggest benefit is that relationship, so that you're able to work with your fellow partners on a level pegging to chat through the problems, the challenges you're facing, and come up with a plan together. You won't always agree, but hopefully the dynamics in your partnership will allow you to disagree politely, and then you will be able to come up with a shared solution to the problems that you face. Sarah here wanted to know about the financial side. Lots of questions about the financial side actually, so I'm going to bring in an accountant to answer those in full, but sort of overarching question of how does the profit work. This might sound a little bit simplistic, but the profit is your income for the practice minus all of your expenses, and then anything that's left is shared between the partners that are remaining. And so there's two ways to make more profit. One is to increase your income, and the other is to reduce your expenditure. And somewhere in the middle there's a really sweet spot of being able to deliver a really great service to your patients whilst maintaining a good profit level for your partners. Question here from Sarah again, actually, about drawings and how they work. And the very simple answer to that is they work however you want them to. The joy of partnership is that you get to decide how your partnership works and functions. Unlike a limited company, there are no legal requirements on the partnership other than those that you put upon yourself, unless of course you don't have a partnership agreement, in which case you would be going back to the Partnership Act of 18 something, which is not a very good idea. So again, I will be bringing in an expert on writing partnership agreements to make sure that they meet all the needs of the current climates, but your drawings work however you want them to. So what you'll need to do with your partners, your new partners, is make sure that you're receiving a fair share of the drawings, and only you and your partners can decide what that fair share looks like for you. Just keep in mind that if you are currently a salaried employee and you become a partner, you will end up paying your own employer's pensions, which is currently 14.38%, potentially going up to 20% next year. So we need to make sure that we factor that into your profit share. Your accountants obviously will be able to help you with this, and your accountants will also tell you how much your drawings will be each month based on that profit share. Again, Sarah's asked us about whether you need to put any money into the pot. that is going to entirely depend on the circumstances of the practice. Partners are obviously required to keep some capital in the practice to keep it running. Sometimes that capital is funded by a bank loan to offset the personal costs to the partners, but often you will be asked to buy in. This can be funded through a personal financial arrangement, which again, I will bring another expert in to talk to us about that in more detail. A little bit about the probationary period here. So what happens during a 6-month probationary period, and what liabilities do you have as a partner? So again, our expert will be able to answer this in much greater detail than me, but actually as soon as you become a partner, you are as liable as all of the other partners. It may well be possible to write some guarantees into your partnership agreement, but ultimately when you become a partner, you are liable as a partner. I would always recommend a probationary period. It is so important to get to know the people that you're joining in with. Obviously at the moment, a lot of people are looking at a sort of salaried to partner conversion, so they already know the people, they know how things work around here. What they might not know, of course, is the practice finances, and that may well be new to them. They tend to be fairly stable unless there's anything massive going on in your local area. The accountant will be able to provide advice on that. If you're entirely new to the practice, you really need to either have a salaried to partner conversion, so start as a salaried employee and then become a partner after a defined period of time, because you really want to get to know all of the individuals who are involved in the practice, both partners and employees, and know this is going to be a good move for you, because it is a long-term commitment. Partnership is not something that you can do lightly. The NHS England financing support for new partners is over 5 years, so there's a minimum expectation there. But I think we need to be thinking, actually, I might be here for the rest of my professional career, and is this the right place for me to do that? A question about what happens if a partner becomes unwell. Then this would be covered by your partnership agreement, or should be. Again, our expert can cover that in some more detail. Also need to make sure that you've got some really good locum insurance in place. Obviously the national scheme will cover GPs, but it does only cover GPs, so if you need additional cover, then head across to that group. I'll post my preferred supplier on there for locum insurance. Really important to make sure the entire team is covered, because we don't have anybody in our teams who isn't vital to the running of our practices. So a question from Vidacoms here, who's interested in the non-GP aspects of partnerships, for example therapists and counsellors as partners. So I think the new to partnership scheme really recognises the skill set that many different professionals can add to partnership. Obviously quite traditional for GPs to be partners, becoming more common for practice managers to become partners, nurses for a long time have been partners in GP practices. But we are now seeing a really wide range of professionals become partners. For me, becoming a partner means you're interested in adding some value to the business rather than perhaps the care that's provided to the patients, that you think you've got a skill set and aptitude for the business side of things, making sure that the practice is running smoothly. Perhaps as a counsellor or a therapist, you want to add some value to the staff wellbeing service. That might be where your benefit can come in, as well as obviously any business acumen that you may well bring to the role from other previous experience. I think one of the great things about the new to partnership scheme is it's encouraging a lot of people into the partnership role who haven't been involved in primary care before, so we get this fantastic new perspective on how our businesses should run from those who perhaps have run their own business outside of primary care, and where the finances have really mattered on a day-to-day basis. Obviously we are quite fortunate as practices to have a relatively stable income compared to perhaps a non-NHS contract business. Claire is asking about being a capital partner versus a premises owner. Some partnerships will separate out the two, so they'll allow you to become a profit sharing partner, which is a requirement of the new to partnership scheme, but not necessarily need to be involved in the ownership of the business. Really, you're going to want to do a long, hard look at this to see whether it's going to be profitable for you. You do not want to take on the liability, the risk of a mortgage if it isn't going to be worth it, but quite often, particularly new builds, are built on the basis that there is a good retention of notional rent versus the mortgage costs, and therefore it is a profitable activity to be involved in. Again, thinking about this being a long-term commitment, being in that partnership, and therefore a good opportunity perhaps to buy into a long-term asset, making you money over and above the NHS contracts that the practice holds. You are going to want some really serious financial advice on all of these matters. It is a considerable commitment. You are personally liable. Obviously, the major difference between being a partner and employee, you are personally liable for all of the costs associated with the business failing, if that was what was to happen. Ultimately, that could result in you losing your own home. So this is not something you should take lightly, but it can be incredibly rewarding, both financially and of course personally as well. So it is something that needs to be really carefully considered with some expert advice. So we've got a question from Elaine here. She's particularly interested in knowing what are the important aspects of the practice finances. So we will do a deep dive into this with an accountant who looks after many practices. But getting hold of a copy of the last 3 years of accounts is going to be really important. They're not the most complicated document in the world to read. You can pass them on to a trusted accountant, but just have a look through them, see where the areas of income are coming from, whether you feel that those are fairly safe areas of income, and have a look through at the expenses and see where the practice is spending its money or perhaps isn't spending its money. And you should be able to look at the profit figures for the last 3 years and establish just how much this is going to be worth to you, and you'll be able to have a look and see at the opportunities you might be able to bring to the practice to reduce their expenditure or increase income. If, for example, you are able to provide an occupational health service privately outside of the NHS contract, then this would be a really valuable asset that you could bring to the practice, increase income with little expenditure, and bring something new to the practice. Looking at the accounts is a really good way of seeing areas where the practice might be missing out on income, and therefore will help with your sales pitch to become a partner and of course enjoy a greater profit share. Lots of questions about sort of buying in and building up your share in the practice. So it really does depend on what that capital requirement is. Some practices will build that up quite slowly, so reduce the drawings over the first year and build up your capital income, your capital fund from that reduced drawing. Some will ask you to buy in initially and say financing is available for that. Question here from Laura: where to access reputable independent financial advice before making a decision? Absolutely key. We will bring an expert in to give some general independent financial advice, and then you will need to seek independent financial advice on your personal circumstances alongside the circumstances of the practice. Laura goes on to ask about training resources available to new partners. So the new to partnership scheme does offer a business bursary, enhanced primary care. What we're doing is we're creating a community of like-minded individuals. So we think the real value sits around coaching and mentoring, supporting people to apply knowledge in a group setting online, where people will be able to bring their challenge, work through it together with other members of the community, and that will then be backed up by a training program, looking at about 15-minute videos. I think that's probably all the time we can fit in these days, and just giving you really core knowledge on what it's important to know as a partner versus all of the perhaps clinical or previous business experience you have. What do you need to know as a partner in a primary care practice? So again, we will be launching that very shortly, but like I say, our focus is really going to be on creating that community of support rather than perhaps a training program that you go one day a week for a month and perhaps don't have the opportunity to apply the learning from it. And that lovely little book that you get when you attend the course just sits on the shelf like the rest of them. So we've got a question here about the different sorts of contracts that a practice can hold. So 3 main contracts. You've got the GMS contract, the PMS contract, and the APMS contract. So your GMS and your PMS contracts are the standard ones. So they, the PMS contracts are now sort of being phased out, people looking to shift back to GMS contracts. APMS contracts tend to be fixed term, usually 5 years. So when you're looking at joining a practice with an APMS contract, you need to be really cautious about where the end point on the contract is and how the end point of that contract is going to be managed. Obviously what you don't want to do is join at perhaps year 4, only enjoy a year's worth of profits, and then be in a position where you have people who've been working for the organisation for 5 years that you need to make redundant because the contract isn't being renewed. So like I say, we're going to be recording a real collection of webinars with interest in the partnership agreement, finance, accounting, and anything else that you need really. So do please comment on this video. If you found it helpful today, please let me know, that would be great. And if you've got any more questions, anything else you'd like covered, pop it in the comments. Please do join that group and then you will never miss one of our webinars. And we're hoping this will be the start of our community of people who are really interested in becoming a partner, perhaps already a partner themselves. Thanks very much.